I was genuinely excited about the interview. It was for a junior marketing role at a trendy tech company based in the city. I won't name them, but let's just say they brand themselves as being modern, progressive, and big on inclusion. Their words, not mine. I'd recently graduated with honours, completed 2 solid internships, and taken on a few independent marketing projects. I knew I'd be a good fit for the role, not just on paper, but in practice. I'd done my homework. I felt that I was ready. I made sure to arrive early, partly to make a good first impression, partly because I hate being late. The receptionist greeted me warmly. She offered me a glass of water and even sat with me while I waited. We talked about her daughter, Lola, just 2 years old. She showed me a few photos, beaming with pride. Lola looked just like her. It was a small moment, but a meaningful one. Everyone who passed by smiled politely. The atmosphere felt so welcoming. So far, so good. Then the hiring manager walked out. The moment her eyes landed on mine, her expression shifted. It was subtle, but unmistakable. Like she was surprised, maybe even caught off guard. I wear hijab, so I'm no stranger to this type of reaction. But in a professional setting, especially one that claims to value inclusion, it surprised me. She smiled awkwardly and led me into a glass meeting room. The interview started with the usual questions. Tell me about yourself. What do you know about our company? How do you handle pressure? I answered confidently, weaving in examples from my internships and projects. At one point, I even made her laugh with a story about my very first campaign. But something felt off. Her body language was closed, the smiles were tight, the energy distant. She played around with her pen more than she engaged with my answers. No follow-up questions, no curiosity, just going through the motions. You can feel it when someone's already made up their mind. She wrapped up the interview in 20 minutes. It was scheduled for 30. I was told that they'll be in touch. To date, I haven't heard from them, not even a generic rejection email. A week later, I saw that the company had reposted the same job on LinkedIn. A week after that, I found out that they'd hired another girl. It was announced on their company LinkedIn page. I looked at the girl's profile, couldn't help it. She was less experienced than me. She also had fewer academic qualifications. She also didn't wear a hijab. Hiring managers and interviewers are well versed in what they can and can't say during an interview. They know the legal boundaries and how to operate within them. That's what makes this kind of discrimination so difficult to prove. In addition, interviews usually take place behind closed doors. Sometimes it's just one-on-one, other times it's a panel. But either way, the candidate is almost always alone. And if something feels off, if the process feels unfair, it becomes a case of your word against the interviewers. Let's look at Farah's story. Based on Farah's accounts, there are clear signs that the interviewer was uncomfortable from the moment that they met. These weren't overt actions, but a series of subtle, involuntary behaviours. The kind we often overlook, but the kind that are often quite revealing. Farah tells us that the interviewer's initial facial expression changes to one of shock when they meet for the first time. This involuntary change in the interviewer's facial expression is an instinctual response to seeing something unexpected. It would have been brief, but noticeable. The interviewer smiled, but it didn't feel genuine. Social psychology tells us that strained or forced smiles are often used to cover discomfort, especially after a person realizes that their initial reaction may have been inappropriate. The smile often looks strained and comes across as insincere or awkward. In Farah's case, the interviewer seems to be smiling in an attempt to cover up her initial reaction when she first saw Farah. Throughout the interview, Farah notices that the interviewer keeps playing with a pen. Fidgeting is a common way that people self-soothe when feeling stressed. It allows the individual to regulate their stress by redirecting their focus to the item that they're interacting with. In this scenario, the interviewer's fidgeting suggests that she's trying to self-soothe or manage her rising discomfort. The pen becomes a tool to keep her hands busy and to focus her attention away from the discomfort that she's feeling. Individually, these signs may seem insignificant, but together they paint a fairly clear picture. This interviewer was not comfortable, and it may have affected the tone and ultimately the outcome of Farah's interview. The discomfort wasn't just non-verbal, it showed up in actions too. For example, the interviewer didn't ask Farah any follow-up questions. The interview ended 10 minutes early. Farah doesn't receive any feedback. Farah is likely left asking herself, what did I do wrong? But the truth is, she may not have done anything wrong. What she experienced may not have been explicit discrimination, but potentially something more insidious, a quiet exclusion. The kind that's hard to name, the kind that's hard to prove, the kind that's nearly impossible to call out without being doubted or dismissed. Even if Farah did speak up, how would it be received? Would she be seen as overreacting, bitter about rejection, playing the discrimination card? So like many others, she says nothing, and she's left carrying that feeling all alone. But the truth is, Farah's not alone, and she's likely not imagining things. What happened to Farah is happening to many other candidates on a regular basis. Qualified, prepared and hopeful candidates being denied opportunities not because they lack ability, but for factors outside of their control. It's wrong, and it needs to stop. We're trying to get rid of interviews. We believe that they're ineffective at predicting a person's future job performance. We believe that they're highly subjective and that interviewers possess too much power in the decision-making process. We believe that it doesn't make sense to hire someone based on how they performed on one particular day. We believe that there's a better way to assess a candidate's suitability for a role, one that doesn't require them to attend an interview. We call it the merit system. Let's say you're looking for a new job. Your first step will be to go to themeritsystem.com and perform a job search. When you find a role that you're suited for, you'll be able to apply for it through the Merit System website. Once you submit your application, the Merit System will automatically anonymize your identity. This means that the company reviewing your application will not be able to see your name or your personal details. If the company selects your application, you'll receive an email inviting you to attend an in-person assessment. The assessment will be in the form of a multiple choice quiz, and you will not be interviewed during the assessment. Once you've passed the multiple choice quiz, you'll be awarded the role. We're really big on transparency. We will require companies to submit the salary or salary range for each role. This will allow you to know what the expected salary is before you make your application. In addition, throughout the hiring process, we allow you to see all other anonymous applications submitted for the role. So even if your application is unsuccessful, you shouldn't be left wondering why. Finally, once a company has selected an applicant to work with, we require that company to leave a public comment explaining their decision. All applicants will be able to view this public comment. Job hunting is exhausting for applicants, and too often, companies simply ignore applicants once they're no longer interested. It's wrong. We believe providing some form of feedback to applicants is the least that a company can do. The overall process will be quick, transparent, and most of all, fair. We want companies to move away from using interviews. It's a very big task and we're a very small team. If you'd like to support us in our mission, please consider clicking the link in the description. Where you're from, what you look like, what you choose to wear on the day of the interview, how you sound, what you believe, whether the interviewer likes you or not. None of this should matter. Individuals should be hired and promoted based on merit, nothing else.